What's up, boys and girls, Lambo here, and in today's video we will be comparing some new stuff that Ragnarok and Solar have been showing in Katowice with the standard openings that we're already playing. I think a day ago or two, Harstem released a video which was called "How Did We Miss This for So Long?" and in which he talked about a new opener that Parting did, something that I also noticed when I was already preparing for Parting being a potential opponent for Rainer in the finals. Parting basically has a new way of opening where he puts the Nexus down before the gases in multiple different matchups, and specifically also against Zergs, where he can hit really nice timings, and apparently this is more efficient than the way Protosses have been opening for years now already, so yeah, well done Protoss players. So then someone on Reddit asked if Ragnarok and Solar also did something similar. Here, I'm gonna read through, this was the most upvoted comment by the way, through the comment from Banjo Death. He said, "I noticed Ragnarok and Solar were doing a new ZVT opening in Katowice too. I would love to see Lambo look into it and check if the delayed gas was more efficient or not too. Some really cool in the tourney, love to see it." Okay, Banjo, so I'm gonna take a look at this, and I picked out a couple of replays for this. So let's start with what Ragnarok has been doing, because he is the guy that kind of made the new opener. There's a couple of things here that stand out to me right away. First of all, we see he's already going to 14 out of 14. And then makes the Overlord, and then goes for an Extractor Trick. The reason you need to Extractor Trick with this is so you don't float 3 larvae, so... yeah, Extractor Tricks, you lose 6 minerals, but this drone will mine a little bit more, compared to if you just waited for until the Overlord was done. So this seems alright. This is a TVZ in the group stage against Cure. I've seen him do this multiple times already. Then he goes 17 Hatch, because that makes a lot of sense to spend the 2 larvae right away after the Overlord. In general, 17 Hatch is a little bit worse than 6 Hatch, but I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. And now here is the interesting thing that was talked about a little bit, where people thought this for sure would be more efficient. He goes for 19 pool, which is uncommon already. Usually it's 18 gas, 17 pool. And he stacks the extra drones on the mineral patches. So his pool is not actually earlier. Plus his hatch is a little bit later. And obviously his gas is later. But there are very common openers in ZVT where you don't need the speed right away. That I will show you guys in a little bit. Then he takes the gas here at 20. And then he sees his opponent scouting. He did not go for a scout this game. The moment the pool is done, he starts 4 links before the queen. I don't know why he's doing that. To be honest, I think the queen first would make a lot more sense. Then he rallies 3 drones into the gas. Those were mining semi-efficiently from patches that were far off. So if you have 3 patches on faraway, if you have 3 drones on faraway patches, these still mine decently effectively. Then he goes for 18 Hatch, which is very common after the extra drone and the Overlord. So very, very common, this one. To the standard opener. And then he basically plays on a little bit. And I will show you guys, this is very, very similar to one of the super standard openers. The main things that he did different was he made 6 links, which is uncommon, especially on a map like Death, or not really necessary. His hatchery is later, and his speed is later than normal. So this is the first thing. Usually you would want to start your speed at around 236, so that you have speed and time for a 4 Hellion run by. Now, not very often Terran players go and run by their Hellions, but in tournament settings where you can prepare for your opponent, for example, Cure in this case could have watched Ragnarok's TVZs from the open bracket and noticed that he always gets his speed this late, and then he could have went for, let's say, a Rex Gas Marine first opener into 4 fast Hellions and then run them by, or even a Gas first opener with 4 Hellion run by, which this would suffer a little bit against, but to be fair, he has 6 Zerglings also. Maybe if he has really good micro, that's fine. And so then he makes an Overlord. And then this build order runs into a small supply block at 44, which is where I'm gonna pause it. And at this moment in time, at exactly 3:21, I will compare Ragnarok's opener with the normal opener, which I'm gonna show in a second now. Alright, so this is the second replay. Here I just played it myself. For comparison sake, And this is what I call the advanced Clash opener. The Clash opener is the opener that we, as in Elazer and me, back when we were on Clash, popularized when we were in Korea. And the thought process was very simple. We could take a hatchery before the Reaper arrives, and we could delay the third Overlord. And then the advanced Clash opener would be if you make the extra drone from natural and the Overlord from the main to avoid the supply block and mine a little bit extra, because with the initial Clash opener there's a little bit of a longer supply block, which doesn't really matter too much. Like, it's a bunch of extra minerals basically, but you would... It gets a lot closer, so you might not be able to put the hatch down before the Reaper arrives, for example, on Remet set if you want to expand forward. So we're going for a normal opener here with 16 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool. Very standard, so we're not going 17 hatch. So first of all, the advantages of 16 hatch over 17 hatch is that the hatch is earlier, thus your queen is earlier, thus it's easier to defend the Reaper. The Reaper will get a bunch less time to shoot at the Zerglings for free or shoot at drones. On top of that, you have an earlier queen plus earlier larva from the natural against Proxy Rex, which is really good. And on top of that, you can put your Creep Doomer down earlier, and then you lose... compared to 17 hatch, you have an extra drone mining in the main base with 17 hatch a little bit earlier, but then the larva here spawns earlier, so that completely balances out. I even went as far as to test once again, even though I was already sure, if 17 hatch is better than 16 hatch, and I also tested it with the Ragnarok Overlord, and in general they were both exactly the same, besides the 16 hatch had a drone a little bit earlier, exactly the same mineral count. And I even cheated a little bit in favor of the 17 hatch, because with the 16 hatch, what you can do is you can make this drone earlier, the 21st drone. So usually with 17 hatch you go for an Overlord, whereas Ragnarok instead went for a later pool and then had his queen supply block for a little bit, which I guess is also fine. But in my comparison games, I went as far as to go 20 Overlord even with the 16 hatch, and then just mine 100 gas for speed and then pull off gas. So yeah, 17 hatch is not better than 16 hatch, so that already. I'm also going to talk about Ragnarok's Overlord in a little bit. So then we go here. Usually I go a little bit before to make sure the Reaper doesn't go, so I would go here and then here, but I was too lazy to do that against the easy AI because he's not going to block me. So we again go for the 28 hatch, similar to Ragnarok, who I'm pretty sure didn't go too early with this. We went 4 links because it's not necessary to go 6 links, since our queen is out earlier. It makes a little bit more sense with 17 hatch to go 6 links, because then the Reaper has more time to shoot at your links, but realistically you shouldn't really lose to too many Zerglings at all against this, especially on Death Hour, which is probably the largest map in terms of Reaper rush distance. And here is the first big difference. We started speed at 230 right now, 235. It could have even been 2 seconds earlier. So this will be in time for the 4 Hellion run by, which is very important. I'm not even sure if Ragnarok's finishes against gas for 6 Hellion run by. Like, it's really, really late. This will also help you to scout later on. Either way, then we go for the extra queen in the natural. And I'm just gonna fast it forward it to the point where I went and compared. I think it was, I have written it down somewhere, 321. So now we're here at 321, right? And when I compared the two things, I looked at everything. So first of all, Ragnarok had a queen, the 3rd queen slightly earlier, and the 4th queen way later. So he has one queen that's quite a bit later, which means he's gonna have 1 less creep tumor probably in the main, or he was gonna have that later. Either way, not the biggest deals. Then Ragnarok had... I paused it in the comparison on frame 1 of 321, so I went like this into the next second, so it might not be the same if you guys... from the way I paused it right now. So Ragnarok had 14 minerals, 36 gas. He had 6 drones in production, both 44 out of 44, so that's the supply block that you will always have for a little bit with this build. So he had 14 minerals, 36 gas, 6 drones in production, 1 Overlord just started, 1 queen started 6 seconds ago, that was the 4th queen, but the 3rd queen is already done, and speed is 33 seconds done out of 79. And then what we have here was, we had 125 minerals, 48 gas, 2 drones in production, which means we have 4 drones that are going to mine a little bit more in the next couple of seconds, if I kept that replay running for a little bit. Then 1 Overlord just started, the 3rd queen is done in 5 seconds, so this queen is later. But this queen is considerably earlier. It started 18 seconds ago, which means it's 12 seconds faster, and the speed is also 12 seconds faster. The main difference in the minerals, I think, is very easy to explain because Ragnarok made 6 Zerglings, which might seem necessary with the way he opened, but it is not really necessary with 16 hatch, so you will always see Zerg players just go for 4 links. And I really didn't want to make 6 links with this, but I'm pretty sure if I made 6 links, it would probably be around the same, but then I probably would have had a similar amount of minerals. But on top of that, just his speed is later, and his queen is later. And I don't think that it's worth it at all. So I think that's just a not a very efficient build compared to the normal opener. So then I thought, okay, maybe that's just because he's going 16 hatch and because he's making 6 links, and because 17 hatch, sorry, and he's making 6 links, and because he's doing a 14 overlord for some reason. So I went and checked the timing with getting a later gas, so I'm going to show that to you guys in a second. Alright, so this is the third replay, in which I will do the same, so the more standard opener, which is with 16 hatch, but I will delay my gas to try and make it a little bit more efficient, to mine a little bit extra with the drones. So I resumed here, so the drone micro is exactly the same. And then from the last replay that I just showed you guys, and then I went for a pool first. I then went for the gas, and I stacked these drones on the mineral patches. We're gonna see it in a second. Here it comes. So now we have 3 drones on these 2 mineral patches. Once it's done, I only wanted to mine with 2 because 2 drones in gas is very efficient. A very efficient way of doing it. And then I again rallied this drone towards the mineral line and stacked it. So then I went down here and I kept the 2 drones mining gas. These drones were perfectly timed, so the speed starts at the exact same time. I again made 4 Zerglings. Cryptomore first, inject first. Hatchery is already down, Overlord, and now I'm gonna play it until the 44 supply block. And here we're gonna stop it, and we had 10 less minerals, so 115 compared to 125. We had 4 more gas. So I'm pretty sure if I just pulled the drone off a little bit earlier, one of the 2 drones, and it mined 1 extra patch of minerals, then we would have been 5 less minerals, same gas. And we have 1 drone in production, so I mean it's overall exactly the same basically. Yeah, and it's just exactly the same as the build that I did before. This is very easy to explain. It's because the drones are running a lot from the minerals to the gas and then from the gas back and stuff. So even though theoretically you want to mine a little bit longer here on the minerals with the drones on the faraway patches, it's not. It doesn't justify doing all these cute little tricks. Compared to taking the gas earlier, where it's very easy, you just rally the drones here and then you pull off gas as the hatchery is done, so they mine super efficiently at the natural, and you have 1 in gas for a little bit. Overall, I really don't think this should matter too much, especially since I tested it with very similar drone micro, and I got the exact same result, so I think you guys should probably go for the easier variation. But yeah, my final verdict is going to come in a little bit. Now let's take a look at what Solar did, because Solar was also mentioned in that thread. Alright, so here we are in the Solar game, where he went for a pool before a gas as well. And this is against Maru, and we're going to see one thing very different from what Ragnarok did, and that's that he is drone scouting to try and check for proxy to Rex. And I could have already told you this before without even checking for the replay, because I obviously talked with Solar. If you go for a drone scout, you go pool first afterwards, so the pool is still in time to start double queen, so the pool is not delayed, and you can't mine from the gas anyways because you're drone scouting. That's the reason you go pool before gas. It has nothing to do with efficiency's sake in general. It's mostly an efficiency boost because he went for a drone scout. And in games where he's not drone scouting, you can check out the games against Clem yourselves if you want. If you don't trust me on this, he will go for a gas pool, also with a 16 hatch and a 13 overlord, like any normal other Zerg. So because he went for a drone scout, he's doing this. It's mining a little bit from the natural. It looks very fancy. And then the Reaper comes, and this opening that he did here is really cool. He also could have started speed already at a time where it's necessary. So unlike the build order of Ragnarok, he could have started it, but was a little bit preoccupied with the Reaper. Now starts it. And then he even has gas for an Overlord speed because he kept turn gas. It's a delayed Overlord speed, so this is not in time to scout any hellbed pushes, but it's very nice against players that have multiple different openers. So it's a cool build. If you think you're the favorite against the Terran, you can go and scout for proxy racks and then do something similar to what Solar has been doing. I think that's worth checking out. But let's get back to the initial question. So let's sum it all up. First of all, what Solar did is nothing new. If you go for a drone scout, you're supposed to actually go pool before gas. I've been doing this for quite a while myself. And obviously his opener has less minerals overall, and I didn't even bother comparing the timings to the other openers because he even went Overlord speed, so it's not really necessary. But in general, he's just going to have less stuff because he drone scouted. So that would not be a fair comparison to the delayed gas. But then what I compared with Ragnarok's timings is that he has less stuff, mostly because he goes 17 hatch, 6 links, which is just not as efficient. And I honestly just feel like he kind of plays like a little bit of a hipster, because I don't really see the reasoning he's doing these things, but I'm sure he has them. Maybe in the past he's had trouble defending Reapers with 4 links, because Koreans just have insane Reaper control somehow, which I would not be familiar with, and maybe that's the reason. I think even then, just getting an earlier queen, and you could even still go 6 links even with 16 hatch, and just play the normal opener and it would be pretty much the same. And then I tried with the delayed gas. Maybe if you find a super nice gas timing and the timing of which you can rally the drones to the gas, and you can do it somehow better than me, you might save, let's say, 10 minutes. Maybe. I could see that somewhere. But in general, just taking the delayed gas compared to the rallying of the drones towards the gas and then rallying them out so they don't lose any time transferring does not make a huge difference. So there was no new invention similar to the way that Protosses have been seeing it from parting, which the last time we had this as a Zerg, where I really thought that, man, we were really dumb, because that's, I think, what the Protosses must be thinking right now, at least that's what I'm thinking about them. Anyways, is that 4 years ago, Stefano went for, what was the first person that I saw play 26 Overlord in ZVZ, because in ZVZ you don't have to make 4 Zerglings at the start. And I looked at the replay and I saw that his Overlord was later than mine, and I was stunned that he was not actually supply blocked, and that was actually the right timing for an Overlord. So you're not supposed to go 19 Overlord, obviously, that we already knew that for a long time, but even that is better than 20 Overlord. That's something that I didn't know. But in general, what we saw here from Ragnarok was not really a big improvement. And yeah, I actually, during my tests with 16 hatch to 17 hatch, where I found out that 16 hatch is actually just slightly better, even on the paper in terms of minerals, but then also is, or it's around the same for the minerals, let's say. I don't think you guys care too much about like 5 extra minutes or a drone being out a second earlier, but it times out your queens, so they're synced perfectly, plus you have earlier cruise threat, plus the queen is out earlier to defend the Reaper, etc, etc. Like the creep is out earlier, which is easier to deny bunkers against 2 wrecks, which actually matters quite a lot in a lot of scenarios. Like in general, you just shouldn't go 17 hatch ever. But the delayed gas is a nice idea that just doesn't work. Sadly, in this case, I think, or at least it doesn't make a difference. But if you want to be cool, take your gas a little bit later, stack your drones. There's not much else to do in the early game anyways, so you don't need to copy the pros. You can test around the stuff yourself, but usually what the pros are doing, we're doing for a reason, especially if it's something that is standard. So if you don't understand it, never be too afraid to question it. And you can always just ask in the comments or in my Twitch chat, and I'm sure I can give you an answer. Anyways, that's it for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this little comparison, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.